Why would a wild animal that spends its entire life avoiding you suddenly decide, in the worst moment of its life, to walk straight toward you? Picture yourself in your backyard when it happens. Some ordinary afternoon, coffee still warm in your hand, when a wild animal slowly appears at the edge of the yard, carrying its own injured baby right in your direction. You don't move. It doesn't back away either. Its ears are pinned, its whole body low and cautious, every muscle ready to bolt, and still, it keeps coming, one slow step after another, closing a distance it has spent its entire life keeping open. Everything nature ever taught the creature says humans mean danger. Cases like this have now been logged on every continent except Antarctica, across more than 60 different species. And yet, here it is. Here's what almost nobody realizes in that moment. Fear is automatic, but risk gets evaluated. Those are two completely different things, and mixing them up is exactly why this looks so impossible at first. Fear doesn't disappear. It never does. What actually happens is that the animal's brain is comparing two risks in real time, getting close to a human being, against losing the one thing it cannot afford to lose. And when the second risk outweighs the first, the animal moves. Think of it less like courage and more like arithmetic running under pressure, cold, fast, and entirely practical. The kind of calculation a body makes before the mind even catches up. That single idea rewrites the whole mystery. And it's worth sitting with for a second before we go any further, because everything else in this story is really just a variation of it. This kind of encounter has been logged by park rangers, veterinarians, and wildlife rehabilitators, involving birds, small mammals, even reptiles, almost always with an injured or sick offspring involved. A raccoon nudging a hurt kit toward a porch light, a deer standing at a fence line with a limping fawn, refusing to leave until someone notices, a seabird landing at a fisherman's feet with a chick trailing an injured wing, a stray dog, tame enough to have a name in the neighborhood, dragging a sick puppy toward the one house that always left food out. The details change, the pattern doesn't. In more than one account, the animal waited at the same spot for hours, returning the next day if nobody noticed the first time. The adult approaches slowly, avoids sudden movement, and stays close until it senses some kind of help. These approaches rarely last long, just enough time for the animal to read the situation before it either accepts the help or pulls back. That's not random hesitation. That's the calculation already at work, quietly the whole time. So what decides which way that calculation goes? Learning, mostly. Researchers call the underlying mechanism a hierarchy of perceived risk. But the plain version is simpler. An animal that has already seen humans behave in non-threatening ways, feeding another animal, staying still, not chasing, carries that memory into moments of crisis. Picture a young fox that once watched its mother scavenge quietly at the edge of a campsite without being chased off. That memory doesn't vanish. Years later, with a hurt kid of its own, it's still sitting there, quietly shaping the decision. The animal isn't trusting you the way we use that word between people. It's comparing two risks and picking the smaller one, based on evidence it has already collected. That memory can even move between animals in the same group. One adult watching another approach safely, and filing that away for its own emergency later, which is probably why some regions see this behavior far more often than others, even among the exact same species. There's an old story that captures this logic almost perfectly, involving a species most people would never expect, and we'll come back to it before the end. For now, picture the three situations where this never happens, no matter how badly the baby needs help. First, when the species has a recent history of being hunted heavily by humans in that area, the risk stays too high. Full stop, no amount of desperation moves that needle. Second, when the injury is severe enough that the baby no longer reads as viable to the adult, which sounds harsh, but parental behavior in most species runs on signals of viability, not grief. The way we experience it, a limp body, a stillness, a smell, these are the signals that end the calculation before it starts. Third, when the adult itself is hurt or unable to move. No calculation, however favorable, can be acted on by a body that physically can't make the trip. Take away any of those three conditions, and the whole behavior simply doesn't happen. No exceptions to the exceptions. What's left in the rare cases where all three line up in the animal's favor is something almost eerie to witness. A wild creature standing its ground in front of the one thing it's spent its whole life running from, simply because the math, just this once, points the other way. There's one more layer to this, and it's the part that's easiest to actually picture. Wildlife researchers report something striking. Animals overwhelmingly favor approaching a human who is standing still and silent over one who is moving or talking. Crouch down slowly, avoid eye contact, keep your hands loose at your sides, and something in the animal seems to relax by a fraction. Straighten up fast, call out, reach for your phone, and the whole encounter can collapse in a second. It's almost as if, before risking everything, the animal needs to read who it's dealing with first, calm or threat. Could you stay completely still and quiet in front of a wild animal carrying its own injured baby? Most people can't. And it's often that exact reaction, a sudden step, a raised voice, that ends the encounter before it goes any further. Some rehabilitators say they can tell within seconds, just from how a person holds their shoulders, whether an animal is likely to stay or bolt. Now here's the story worth coming back to. In 1996, a female gorilla named Binti Jua at Brookfield Zoo in the United States caught and carried a 3-year-old child who had fallen into her enclosure, cradling the child gently and shielding them from the other gorillas until keepers arrived to carry the child to safety. It wasn't her own baby, and she wasn't in the wild, and she'd never faced a human before in any moment resembling danger. But strip away those details, and what's left is the exact same calculation we've been describing this whole time. Assess the situation, decide the smaller risk is worth taking, protect whoever needs protecting, using whatever is at hand, even a stranger, even a different species entirely. Even inside a species we consider fundamentally different from us, the same math shows up, running quietly under the surface, waiting for the right kind of emergency to reveal it. Go back to that backyard. That animal's still standing in front of you, still waiting to see what you'll do, coffee gone cold in your hand by now. You already know what's happening. It isn't trust, not the way we mean it. It's a wild animal doing the hardest arithmetic of its life, under the worst possible pressure, and getting an answer that points, for once, at you. The animal never stopped fearing you. It simply feared losing its baby even more. And maybe that's the real lesson hiding in all of this. Sometimes what looks like trust is nothing more than the last option desperation has left. The quiet moment when an instinct built over millions of years bends, just slightly, toward the one creature it was built to avoid. Next time you're outside and something wild holds your gaze a second too long, you'll know exactly what kind of arithmetic might be running behind those eyes. If this changed the way you'll look at the next wild animal you see, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell us what you thought of this one.